They stoned a homeless Apache woman in the street, calling her a monster, until a cowboy took her home. The first rock hit her shoulder before Cole Danner even saw her. He was riding into Red Rock Flats on a Tuesday, trail dust thick on his coat, his horse, Biscuit, tired from 3 days of open country. The town sat low and dry under a white sky, a place where nothing much happened, and people made their own trouble when boredom got heavy enough. He heard the crowd before he saw it. Voices sharp and ugly, the kind that fed on each other. She was crouched near the water trough at the far end of the main street. A woman, old and thin, wrapped in a torn blanket despite the heat. Her gray hair was loose and tangled. Her face was dark and weathered, and she did not look up at the people surrounding her. She kept her eyes on the ground like she had learned long ago that looking up only made things worse. There were maybe 15 people in the loose circle around her. Men, mostly. A few women standing back a little watching. Some children too, which made Cole's stomach turn. Another rock flew. It caught her on the arm. She flinched but did not cry out. Someone shouted something ugly, then laughter. Cole pulled Biscuit to a stop. He sat for a moment watching. His jaw tightened. He had ridden into a lot of towns in his 41 years. He had seen a lot of things. This particular thing never got easier to look at. He stepped down from the saddle. He was not a large man, but he was built solid, and he moved the way men move when they have never had reason to hurry because trouble has always waited for them. He tied Biscuit to the post outside the general store and walked down the middle of the street toward the crowd. Nobody noticed him at first. They were too busy with what they were doing. A man with a red beard and suspenders bent down and picked up another rock. He was grinning. He pulled his arm back. Cole caught his wrist. The man turned, surprised. Then he looked Cole up and down and decided to be angry instead of scared. The way small men often do when they are caught doing something they know is wrong. "You got a problem, stranger," he said. "Drop the rock," Cole said. His voice was quiet. That was usually enough. The man looked around at his friends. He had an audience, which made him brave in the wrong direction. "This ain't your business. That thing has been sleeping in front of the feed store for 3 days. She stinks. She talks to herself. She ain't right in the head." "Drop the rock," Cole said again. Something in his eyes made the man reconsider. The rock fell into the dirt. Cole turned to face the crowd. He did not raise his voice. "Anybody else holding something they want to put down?" Silence. A man near the back muttered something about Apache savages. Cole looked at him for a long moment, and the man found somewhere else to look. The crowd loosened slowly, the way crowds do when the thing they were feeding on stops being easy. One by one, they drifted back to their business, grumbling. The woman with the red-bearded man pulled him away by the elbow, shooting Cole a look that was half grateful and half furious at being made to feel ashamed. Cole turned to the woman by the water trough. She had not moved, had not looked up. Her hands were folded in her lap, and her breathing was careful and controlled. There was blood on her forearm where the second rock had hit. He crouched down so he would not be standing over her. "You hurt bad?" he asked. She said nothing for a moment. Then she looked at him. Her eyes were dark brown and clear, and whatever he had expected to see in them, it was not that steadiness. "I have been hurt worse," she said. Her English was careful, deliberate, like she chose each word and set it down with intention. "I believe you," Cole said. He sat back on his heels and looked at her arm. The cut was not deep, but it needed cleaning. Her feet, he noticed, were bare. One was wrapped in a strip of cloth that had once been white. "What is your name?" he asked. She studied him for a long moment. People who have been hurt enough eventually stop trusting quickly, and he understood that. He waited. "Nally," she said. "Cole Danner," he said. He stood up slowly so as not to startle her. "I am going to get my horse. You want some water?" She nodded once, small and proud. He went to the trough and filled his canteen and brought it back to her. She drank carefully, not greedily, though he could see how thirsty she was. There was a dignity to the way she held herself that made the whole scene from 5 minutes ago feel even uglier in his memory. He looked down the street. The town had gone back to its business, pretending nothing had happened. The man with the red beard was standing outside the saloon now, talking to someone, laughing about something else entirely. Cole looked back at Nolly. She was watching him with those steady eyes, waiting to see what he would do next. Whether he would walk away like everyone else always did, whether the help had already ended. "I have a camp about 2 miles east," he said. "Fire, food, and nothing else pressing. You are welcome to it if you want." She did not answer right away. He did not push. "Why?" she finally asked. It was the right question. He respected it. "Because I am going there anyway," he said. "And because nobody should sleep on the ground in a town that throws rocks at them." She looked at him for a long time. Then she reached out one hand, and he helped her to her feet. She was lighter than she expected, and the way she stood once she was upright, straight-backed and quiet, told him she had not always lived like this. He untied Biscuit, and they walked east out of Red Rock Flats together, the old woman and the cowboy, neither one saying much. Behind them, the town watched from its windows and said nothing. 2 miles east of Red Rock Flats, the land opened up into a shallow creek bed, ringed by cottonwood trees, and that was where Cole had made his camp the night before. He had a bedroll, a fire ring still warm from the morning, a coffee pot, and a canvas pack with enough food for a few days. Nolly walked the whole 2 miles without complaint, though he could see it cost her. She moved carefully, favoring her wrapped foot, and he offered Biscuit to her twice. Both times she shook her head. He stopped offering after that, because he understood that kind of pride. When they reached the camp, she sat down on a flat rock near the dead fire without being told and watched him work. He built the fire back up, filled the coffee pot from the creek, and dug through his pack. He had salt pork, hard biscuits, dried beans, and some cornmeal. He put the beans on to boil and sliced the salt pork into a pan and set that on the edge of the fire. He had a small tin of coffee grounds, and he put those on too. Nolly watched all of this without saying a word. He cut a strip of clean cloth from his spare shirt, poured a little water over it, and held it out to her. She looked at it, then at him, then took it and pressed it to the cut on her arm herself. He did not try to do it for her. That also seemed right. "How long were you in that town?" he asked, pouring the first coffee into his second tin cup and handing it to her. "6 days," she said. "Where before that?" She wrapped both hands around the cup. "Many places." She paused. "I walked from the reservation. I could not stay there." He did not ask why. That was her story to tell or keep, and she had not offered it. He just nodded and turned the pork in the pan. "The reservation near Crane River," he asked. She looked up. "You know it. Passed through it about 4 years ago. Dry country. Very dry," she said. Something shifted behind her eyes. Memory or grief or both. The beans came to a boil, and he stirred them and added a little salt. The smell of the pork was good and strong, and he noticed her sit up slightly at it, though she tried not to show that she was hungry. He filled the plate full and handed it to her first. She ate. Slowly at first, then with more conviction. He ate his own portion and did not watch her because she deserved to eat without being observed. When she was done, she set the plate on her knee and looked at the fire. "The people in that town," she said, "they called me a monster." Cole poured himself a second coffee. People call things monsters when they are afraid of them. Usually it means they are the ones afraid. "I am not frightening," she said. There was no bitterness in it, just fact. "No," he agreed. "You are not." She was quiet for a while. Then she said, "My grandson's name was Hawkwing. He died 2 winters ago. After that I could not stay where everything reminded me of him." She paused. "My daughter is angry with me for leaving. She thinks I gave up." She looked at the fire. "I did not give up. I just could not breathe." Cole held his cup and let that sit in the air without trying to fix it or respond to it with something useless. "I have a place," he said finally. "Small ranch about 40 miles northwest. Nothing grand. Needs a lot of work, truthfully. But it is mine, and there is room, and the nearest neighbor does not bother with other people's affairs." She looked at him. "I am not offering charity," he said, because he thought she would need to hear that distinction. "I can use help. My cook left in the spring, and I have been eating my own cooking for 3 months, which is its own kind of suffering." He said it straight-faced, and she almost smiled. "Almost. I am offering work if you want it. A room, real walls, real meals, fair terms." "You do not know me," she said. "You do not know me," he replied. "That part goes both ways." She looked at him with those measuring eyes for a long time. He had the feeling she was reading things in his face that he did not even know were written there. Whatever she found, it seemed to satisfy something. I will decide in the morning, she said. Fair enough, he said. He rolled out his bedroll for her and took his spare blanket for himself and slept on the other side of the fire. He was asleep within minutes because he slept the way men sleep, who have an easy conscience. He woke just before dawn to find her sitting by the fire, which she had stoked back to life. She had a stick and she was drawing something in the dirt near her feet. When he sat up, she looked over at him. I will come, she said. All right, he said. He started the coffee. They broke camp as the sun came up, orange light spreading flat across the dry grass, and headed northwest. Biscuit walked steady and slow to keep pace with Nolly, and Cole did not rush. He had nowhere to be by any particular hour. What he did not know yet, and would not know for several more miles, was that 3 of the men from Red Rock Flats had watched them leave town the night before, and 2 of them had decided there was unfinished business. The hoof bites started about mid-morning, distant at first, then closer. Cole heard them before he turned to look. Cole did not panic. Panic's a thing he had trained himself out of years ago, the way you train a horse past its fear of water. You do it slowly, repeatedly, and then one day the river is just a river. He turned to look back down the trail. 2 riders, maybe a quarter-mile back and closing. He recognized one of the horses, a dark bay, from the hitching rail outside the saloon in Red Rock Flats. The red-bearded man was on it. The other rider was shorter, wearing a brown hat pulled low. Cole kept walking. He dropped his pace slightly, enough to let him think without seeming to think. Nolly had seen them too. She said nothing. She just moved slightly to his left, closer to the trees at the edge of the trail, her eyes forward. Keep walking, Cole said quietly. Don't look back. I know, she said. She had clearly done this before, kept her eyes forward while danger came from behind. He did not like that she knew it, but he was glad she did. The riders pulled up alongside them. Cole stopped walking and turned slowly. Redbeard had his hands on his hip, near his gun but not on it. The other man, younger with Apache beard, stayed half a length behind. The nervous one, Cole thought. The one doing this because he was told to, not because he believed in it. Where you think you're taking that creature? Redbeard said. Cole looked at him evenly. I don't believe I addressed you. You made yourself our business back in town. I made that rock your business, Cole said. I don't recall anything else being said. Redbeard moved his horse a step forward. She is a vagrant and a public nuisance, and the sheriff of Red Rock Flats would likely agree that. Then go get the sheriff, Cole said. I'll wait. Redbeard stopped. That was not the response he had expected. He had expected argument, maybe fear, something he could push against. Calm disagreement with an invitation to escalate through legal channels was harder to work with. Cole looked past him at the younger rider. What is your name? The young man blinked. P. Do you want to be here? A pause. My cousin asked me to come. That is not what I asked. Pete looked at his cousin, then back at Cole, then at the ground. Not especially, he admitted. Then go home, Pete. Something shifted in the younger man's posture. He straightened slightly, like a decision was being made that he had been waiting for permission to make. He turned his horse around without another word and rode back toward town. Redbeard watched him go, and his face went through several colors. Cole waited. He had learned long ago that silence did more work than words in moments like this. Silence let the other person hear what they actually sounded like. Redbeard looked at Nolly. Something passed through his expression, a flash of something uglier than anger, and then it was gone, replaced by bluster. You are going to regret this, he said. Maybe, Cole said. Go home. Another long moment. Redbeard turned his horse. He rode away at a walk, which was its own kind of statement, and Cole watched him go until he was out of sight over the low hill. Cole turned to Nolly. She was watching the place where the man had disappeared, her face unreadable. Are you all right? He asked. Yes, she said. And then, after a moment, he will not let it rest. No, Cole agreed, probably not. That kind never does. No, but that is tomorrow's problem. He started walking again. After a moment she fell into step beside him. They moved in silence for a mile, not uncomfortable silence. The kind that comes between people who have decided to trust each other and are still getting used to the shape of it. Then Nolly said, I knew a man like you once. He helped our family when we were moved from our land. He gave us food and blankets. The army told him to stay away after that. What did he do? He brought more blankets, she said. Cole nodded at the trail ahead. Sounds about right. Late that afternoon they came over a long rise, and the ranch appeared below them. It was small, like he had said. A main house, a barn, a corral, with 3 horses moving lazy in the late sun, a kitchen garden that had gone mostly to weeds since April. There was a stone chimney and a covered porch, and an old cottonwood in the yard that had been there longer than the house. Nolly stopped at the top of the rise and looked at it. It needs work, Cole said again. I can see that, she said. But the way she said it was not critical. It was the tone of someone looking at a problem they know how to solve. They went down the hill. Inside the house he showed her the spare room, which had a bed and a chest of drawers and a window that faced east, toward the good morning light. She stood in the doorway and looked at it. He thought maybe she was going to cry. She did not. She just stood there a moment, and whatever she needed from that moment she took. Thank you, she said. Kitchen's through that door. I'll make supper. He turned to go. Cole, she said. He looked back. The man with the red beard, she said. His name is Griff Hollis. He owns the feed store in Red Rock Flats. He has wanted this land for 3 years. He thinks you will sell because you live alone and have no help. Cole was still for a moment. How do you know that? I slept near that feed store for 6 days, she's. People talk as if no one is listening when they believe the one listening does not matter. He looked at her. That is useful to know, he said. Yes, she said. I thought so. He went to make supper, and for the first time in months the kitchen did not feel empty. The first thing Nolly did the next morning was the garden. Cole woke to find her already outside, on her knees in the kitchen garden, pulling weeds with a methodical calm that suggested she had been at it for at least an hour. Biscuit watched her from the corral with great interest. The other horses had already gone back to their grazing. Cole stood on the porch with his coffee and watched her work. She had found a pair of old boots in the barn that fit roughly well enough. She had tied back her gray hair. She moved through the rows of overgrown vegetables with confidence, separating the good plants from the weeds without hesitation. Her hands knowing the difference before her eyes did. He brought her a cup of coffee and left it on the fence post without disturbing her. She picked it up a few minutes later without breaking her rhythm. By mid-morning, she had cleared 3/4 of the garden and staked up 2 tomato plants that had been falling over for weeks. She had also found, under the weeds, a row of green beans that Cole had not known were there. You planted these? She asked when he came out at noon. I planted something there in May. Forgot what. She gave him a look that said a great deal about the way he ran his garden. None of it flattering, all of it accurate. They will produce if you water them properly, she said. I will water them properly, he said. She went back to work. That afternoon he rode into the neighboring town of Millhaven for supplies, which was 12 miles west and a different kind of place than Red Rock Flats. Quieter, less interested in other people's affairs, which was one of the reasons Cole had bought land in this direction. He was tying up Biscuit outside the general store when the postmaster, a round-faced man named Abe Loring, came out and waved at him. Cole, heard you had some trouble in Red Rock Flats. News traveled fast in empty country. Word gets around, Cole said. Griff Hollis has been telling people you are harboring a dangerous vagrant, Abe said. He kept his voice neutral, which Cole appreciated. Abe was one of those rare men who reported things without editorializing. She is not dangerous and she is not a vagrant, Cole said. She is working for me. Abe nodded slowly. Hollis says she is Apache. Says she has probably got a criminal record with the Indian Agency. Hollis says a lot of things, Cole said. He went into the store. He bought flour and salt and a bolt of plain cloth and 2 pairs of women's boots in a size he guessed at, and a bar of soap and some dried fruit. At the last minute, he added a good pair of leather gloves, because Nolly's hands had been bare in the garden, and the ground out here was rough. On the way back, he was thinking about what Abe had said. Griff Hollis was the kind of man who made quiet, steady trouble. He would not come at you directly after that moment on the trail. He would work through other people, through rumors, through official channels if he could find one to use. Cole had owned this land for 6 years. He had the deed clear and paid. There was nothing Hollis could do about that. But Nolly was different. If Hollis filed some kind of complaint with the Indian Agency or the county sheriff, things could get complicated. Not because Nolly had done anything wrong, but because the system that handled such complaints was not always interested in doing things right. He rode home turning this over and found no clean answer by the time he got back. Nolly was on the porch when he arrived, sitting straight-backed in the old chair, sewing. She had found his sewing kit and was mending the torn blanket she had been carrying when he first saw her. Her stitches were small and even-handed. She worked without looking at what her hands were doing. He handed her the bolt of cloth and the boots without a word. She looked at them, then at him. "The boots, I guessed at the size," he said. "I can exchange them if they are wrong." She picked up one of the boots and held it next to her foot. It was close. She nodded. "They are good," she said. "Hollis is telling people things about you in town," he said. He did not see the point in keeping that from her. She had survived this long on knowing what was coming. She set the boot down. "What things? That you are dangerous, that you have some kind of record," he paused. "Do you?" She looked at him steadily. "I refused to sign a paper once at the agency. They wanted me to agree that a piece of land our people had always used was not ours. I would not sign it. The agent wrote in his report that I was obstinate and uncooperative." "That is not a criminal record," Cole said. "No," she said. "But it is enough to cause trouble for someone who wants to cause trouble." He sat down on the porch steps. The evening light was coming in long and orange across the dry grass, and the horses stood still in the corral, and somewhere out in the scrub a bird was calling. One long note over and over. "I am going to ride into Red Rock Flats in the morning," he said. "Talk to the sheriff there. Get in front of whatever Hollis is planning." Nolly said nothing for a moment. Then, "Be careful with that sheriff. His name is Walt Pruitt. He grew up 3 houses from Griff Hollis." Cole looked at her. 6 days, she said, by way of explanation. He shook his head slowly and almost smiled. "You are going to be very useful," he said. "Yes," she said, and went back to her sewing. "I know." Cole rode into Red Rock Flats the next morning with a clear purpose and no particular expectation that it would be easy. The sheriff's office was a narrow building between the barber and the telegraph station. Walt Pruitt was inside, a heavy man with a gray mustache and the careful stillness of someone who has spent years sitting behind a desk, making small decisions and calling them important ones. Cole introduced himself and sat down. "I know who you are," Pruitt said. He leaned back in his chair. "You're the one made a scene on Main Street 2 days ago." "I stopped a group of people from throwing rocks at an old woman," Cole said. "I would not call that a scene. Griff Hollis says that woman has a history of disturbing the peace." "Griff Hollis owns the feed store and wants my land," Cole said. "I thought that was worth mentioning before we go any further." Pruitt's face did not change much, but something behind his eyes shifted. He had not expected that to come out so quickly. "Be that as it may," Pruitt said slowly, "there are questions about her status. Whether she has the right to be working on private land outside the reservation without agency approval." "I was not aware I needed agency approval to employ someone on my own property," Cole said. "The rules around Indian labor are complicated." "I would like to see the rule you are referring to, written down, with the relevant law cited." Another shift behind the eyes. "I would have to look into it." "I will wait," Cole said. He sat. Pruitt looked at him. Cole looked back. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside a wagon went by and the sound of it faded. Pruitt opened a drawer, moved some papers around, closed the drawer, opened another. Found nothing useful in it either. "There may not be a specific written rule," he said finally. "Then there is nothing to discuss," Cole said. He stood up. "The woman working on my land has broken no law and intends to break none. If Griff Hollis or anyone else comes onto my property without invitation, I will consider it trespassing and respond accordingly." He put his hat on. He had one more thing to say, and he said it quietly. "I also think you should know, Sheriff, that I served 3 years as a deputy marshal in Dona Ana County before I bought my ranch. I know Judge Elias Crane in Millhaven personally. If there is harassment on this land or against the woman living on it, I will not be coming back to this office first." Pruitt looked at him for a long time. "I will have a word with Griff," he said. "That would be appreciated," Cole said. He left the office and stepped into the bright morning street. He knew that conversation had not ended anything. Men like Hollis did not stop because a sheriff had a word with them. But it had shifted the ground, made it slightly less comfortable, added some cost to whatever Hollis was planning. That was enough for now. He was 3 streets from the edge of town when Pete, Redbeard's cousin, stepped out from between 2 buildings and fell into step beside him. Cole kept walking. "I want to apologize," Pete said. He was young, maybe 22, and he had the look of someone who had spent a lot of time doing things he was not proud of because it was easier than refusing. "You already did," Cole said, "when you rode away. I should not have ridden out there with him in the first place." "No," Cole said, "but you left when it mattered. That counts." Pete was quiet for a few steps. "My cousin is not going to drop this," he said. "He is owed money by 2 men in Millhaven, and he has been trying to get at your land for years, because he thinks there is water under the east field that he could use for his stock." Cole stopped walking. "There is water under the east field," he said. Pete shrugged. "That is what the old-timer at the livery says. Griff paid to have it surveyed about a year before you bought the place." Cole stood there for a moment, thinking about Nolly in the garden on her knees, pulling weeds over ground that apparently had water running under it. He had bought land that someone else wanted without knowing someone else wanted it. Now he knew. "Thank you, Pete," he said. "He is going to try something," Pete said. "I don't know what, but he has been talking to someone in the county seat." Cole nodded. "Go home and stay out of it," he said. "Whatever comes, it is not your fight." Pete nodded and walked away. Cole rode back to the ranch through a different way than he had come, looping north through the scrub, thinking hard. Nolly was splitting wood when he arrived. She had found his axe, and she was working the wood with a clean, practiced swing that was better than his own. She looked up when he rode in and read something in his face. "What happened?" she said. He told her. All of it. The sheriff, Pete, the water. She listened without interrupting. When he was done, she drove the axe into the chopping block and leaned on it. "There is something else you should know," she said. "Something I have been deciding whether to tell you." He waited. "My grandfather walked this land before the reservation was made," she said. He described the creek, the cottonwoods, the stone rise at the east field. He described this place. She looked at the house, the barn, the old cottonwood in the yard. "I did not walk toward Red Rock Flats by accident. I walked toward this place. I did not know you would be here. I only knew this land." Cole stood very still. "You came home," he said. She looked at him. "In a way," she said. The late afternoon light fell across the yard, and the horses stood still, and the green beans were growing quietly under the Eastfield sky. And somewhere not far away, a man with red hair was planning to take all of it. Cole picked up the axe from the chopping block and started splitting wood himself, steady and hard, because it was something useful to do with what he was feeling. "We are going to need to talk to a lawyer," he said. "Yes," Nolly said, "and I know someone who knows the land records from before the reservation." She paused. "If that land was my grandfather's, there may be documentation the agency does not want anyone to find." Cole stopped swinging, looked at her. "Then we are going to find it," he said. Nolly picked up the split pieces and stacked them with precision, each piece laid with care against the next, building something solid against the cold that would come. "Yes," she said, "we are." The sun went down over Red Rock Flats and over the ranch and over the dry country all around them, indifferent as it always is. And 2 people stood in a yard deciding to fight for something, which is how most stories worth telling actually begin. Griff Hollis sat in his feed store 3 weeks later and read the document twice. Then he read it a third time, which did not change what it said. It said that the land currently registered under Cole Danner's deed had been granted for communal Apache use in 1847 under a territorial agreement that predated the reservation system. It said that the agreement had been superseded but never formally nullified. It said that a woman named Nolly Runningwater, as a direct descendant of the original family named in the grant, had standing to contest current land use claims in federal court. It had been filed with the Federal Land Office in Santa Fe 4 days ago. Hollis set the paper down. He looked at the wall. Outside, Red Rock Flats went about its Tuesday business, the horses at the rail and the dust in the street and the women with their shopping baskets. And none of them knew that the ground under everything had just shifted. He had made a mistake, Hollis thought. He had looked at an old Apache woman sleeping near his feed store and seen something to push away, a problem to solve, a nuisance to remove. He had not seen what she was. Cole Danner had seen it. Or maybe he had not seen it either. Not at first. Maybe he had just seen a woman being hurt and decided that was enough of a reason. Maybe that was all it ever needed to be. The lawyer Cole had brought in from Millhaven, a quiet and thorough woman named Clara Voss, had been the one to track down the 1847 document in the Territorial Archive. She had spent 2 weeks on it, and charged a fair rate, and found what she was looking for because she was the kind of person who believed that what was buried was not always meant to stay that way. Hollis had a choice now. He could fight it in federal court, which would cost him more than the water rights were worth, and which he would likely lose. Or he could do something he had never once in his life considered doing. He could leave people alone. He sat in his feed store for a long time. Then he picked up the paper and folded it, and put it in his drawer, and he did not take it out again. At the ranch, the morning of the day Hollis read that document, Nolly was in the kitchen, making bread. She had been making bread 3 mornings a week since October, and the kitchen smelled like something that had been missing from it for a very long time. Cole was outside fixing the north fence, where the post had rotted, banging at it with more enthusiasm than skill, which she had quietly observed, and said nothing about, because some help is not wanted, and she understood that too. The green beans had come in well. The tomatoes had been excellent. She had put up preserves in September, 16 jars on the shelf above the stove, and she had taught Cole how to make a proper pot of coffee, which had improved his life measurably. Her daughter had come in late August. That had been a complicated day. Her daughter Ruth was 40 and steady and fierce, and she had arrived on horseback, with a face that said she was ready to be angry. She had looked at the house, at the garden, at the jar of wildflowers on the windowsill, at her mother's hands, which were calloused and strong again, and not shaking, and some of the anger had gone out of her face. She had stayed 4 days. She and Cole had barely spoken, circling each other with the careful politeness of people who were not yet sure what they were to each other. On the 4th morning, Ruth had found him struggling with the bread, which he still made badly on the mornings Nolly rested, and she had stood in the kitchen doorway watching him. "You knead it, not just press it," she finally said. "I know that," Cole said, kneading it wrong. Ruth had come into the kitchen and corrected his hands without commenting on how wrong they were. And they had made the bread together in silence. And it had come out well, and neither of them mentioned it afterward. When she left, she embraced Nolly for a long time. She had looked at Cole over her mother's shoulder. Some things pass between people, in a look that cannot be said in words. That look said, "She is everything, you understand that. She is everything," he had nodded. Ruth had ridden away and the dust of her going had settled back into the road, and Nolly had stood watching until she was gone. "She will come back at Christmas," Nolly said. "Good," Cole said, and he had meant it. Now it was November, and the air was cold and sharp in the mornings, and the bread in the kitchen smelled like warmth, and the green beans were done, but the preserves would last the winter. Cole finished the fence post and came back to the house and took off his hat and hung it on the nail by the door, the same nail he had hung it on every day for 6 years, and the kitchen was full of light and the smell of bread and a woman who had walked across dry country to find her grandfather's land, and had found instead a man who had no plan beyond stopping a wrong thing and seeing what came next. He poured himself a coffee. "Clara Voss sent a letter," Nolly said without turning from the bread. "The federal office has received our filing." "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we wait," she said. "And we keep working." She shaped the bread and put it in the pan. He sat down at the kitchen table and drank his coffee and looked out the east window at the field, where the water ran underground, patient and invisible, waiting to be useful. Outside, the horses stood in the morning cold, and the old cottonwood in the yard had gone gold, and the stone rise in the east field caught the first long light of November, the same light it had caught in 1847, and every year before, and every year since, indifferent to ownership, indifferent to deeds, belonging as it always had, simply to itself. Nolly slid the bread into the oven and straightened up. "It is going to be a good winter," she said. Cole looked at her. "Yes," he said, "I think it is." And the bread baked, and the day came on, and Red Rock Flats was 3 miles east, and getting smaller every morning.